everyone, Karen the Warp Spinster here. Thank you for joining me today. This is going to be a short and late video for a number of reasons. I had an appointment at the dermatologist this morning, which went on fairly long. PSA, wear sunscreen. This is the 6th chunk they've cut out of me. And we also have 80-mile-an-hour winds coming in, so I want to get this recorded and hopefully uploaded before we lose power, which is certainly a distinct possibility. Okay, so I want to work with strips today. Should have trimmed that one, shouldn't I? And as I said, this is going to be pretty short and quick, but I think it will be pretty evident what I'm going to do here, so shouldn't require a lot of explanation. So I've selected just some strips. They aren't the same width. Some of them aren't straight, and it doesn't matter. So I'm just going to sew these together, and then I will come back and talk about my next step of the plan. And I have them sewn together. As you can see, they weren't all straight, but that's okay with me. It will come as no surprise to you that I am going to now slice this. I could make 2 slices in it, but I'm actually going to do more than that. 2 would be sufficient to try this out, but I would like to try something a little different. The only thing I want to do is make sure that they aren't too close together, because I will, of course, be seaming these again. And I am opting to make these straight across for the moment. They don't have to be equal width. Think about this. I think I need one more. Yep. And I'm going to make this one wider. I am not trimming off these uneven ends here because it gives me more options if I leave those there. Certainly if I wanted to be more traditional, I guess, about it, I could trim these off straight or crooked, but I'm going to leave this for another possibility, which I may or may not decide to do, but at least I have that option. So all I'm going to do here is just flip these around. It's probably not a surprise to you either, so that it has a sort of woven look to it. It's kind of, I wasn't sure about this. It would almost be kind of cool more toward the middle, but I do like having that very graphic piece here. And then all I'm going to do is sew those back together. Now, whoops, sorry. I could also, of course, none of this is going to be a surprise to you. You probably figured this all out before I got started even. I could add white strips in between to differentiate these a bit. And I may do that. I wouldn't even have to do it on all of them, would I? I could do it just, say, in a couple of places. I think I will do that. I'll put one here, just a very narrow strip like here, and then one here, just for a little added interest. All right, so I will do that and come back and then maybe do a little brainstorming about what I might do with this. It could be just a little miniature thing itself, but I'll be thinking and talking about that as soon as I get back from this. Here's the end result of that, and it's quite, as I was doing this, I noticed that it's quite reminiscent of Seminole patchwork, which some of you may remember. I don't see much about Seminole any longer, but I'm not specifically looking for it, so it might still be out there. But that involves doing strip sets, slicing them as I did, and then just staggering them. So it's kind of a almost Bargello-y kind of thing, but not quite. Anyway, it's a lovely thing. Check it out if you think that sounds interesting. All right, what would I do with this now? Of course, I have choices. As I said, I can always square that off. This makes a nice sort of contrast and difference in there, which I like, and I would be happy with doing this, cutting it off there. But here are some other options. One of the things I've been thinking about is if I turn it this way, if I'm thinking about weaving and I turn it this way, then I have these ends down here, which I didn't cut off. And if this were a traditional weaving piece, this would be the warp, which is the foundational structure of weaving. So those are the really long threads that go the full length of the fabric or the scarf or whatever. And then you just weave the weft back and forth. So if I look at these as the warp, when you cut a woven piece off the loom, then you have warp threads actually on both ends. But you'll often see woven pieces that are hanging on the wall, and then they have like a fringe, and that is the warp. So I'm thinking that while I sometimes, if I'm doing, say, a table runner or whatever, I will make a long fringe with the warp threads. Sometimes I stitch it so it's like a piece of fabric. But for this, I was thinking one thing that I could do is just to continue turning these under with the 1/4 inch seam, and then appliquing this onto a background piece of whatever the background for the quilted piece would be. And I think that would be kind of interesting. I would probably even release some of these stitches and leave, well, no, I don't really need to. A couple of them I wish I had left longer, but I don't need to. I guess I don't need to really belabor what I'm doing there. Then with these white pieces, which I'm pretty glad that I did. I'm working white into this quilt that I'm working on as I'm doing these samples. You may decide that you don't want to do that. May not be white. You may not want any of that contrast in there at all. Then on what would be the weft, if this were a woven piece, I left one end loose because as you're doing the weft, you're weaving it in and out, so most of the weft is just making a loop at each side, but then you have a beginning and end. Not always. Sometimes weft are different pieces, but in the more traditional weaving, you would have an end actually up here and down here. So this is going to simulate one of the weft ends, and I could do the same thing here where I applique that, and I actually might make it a little bit of a curve there. So that's one option. Another thing I was thinking of is if I did another strip set like I did at the outset and then turned it 90 degrees so that the length is going in here as if it's sort of this part of the weft that's coming in from the other direction. I'd have to play with that and see whether or not that would work. And it would be pretty scrappy because unless I use these same fabrics in a particular order, it might not be a very cohesive look. I'm not sure. So I may try that out in Procreate. Just take a photo of this, duplicate it, and then try playing with it. I could do it for real in fabric, but the wind is getting seriously strong here. And I do want to be able to get this posted today. Another thing that I might do actually, well, I could do that if I'm going to take another piece and rotate it like that, is to sew it as a kind of a curve. And this would probably be a pretty gentle curve in this case. And if this is, say, if this second piece over here is going to be, say, this wide so that it just kind of flows into there, then I would probably have some white up on this side of it and white on that side of it, and then that curve would sort of melt into that. Or I could, of course, just make that straight, put another piece next to it that's done differently, different strip sets, maybe a different number of these pieces so that there's some contrast, or maybe make it higher up here or lower down so that it isn't running right into it and I don't have to feel like it might look like I tried to match it up and I didn't. So I want it to be a very conscious, obvious thing that I wanted it to be offset. I could, as I said, do this, do another one similar to this, rotate it, and have these straight edges, cut those off straight, and have them butt up against each other, which is a possibility. Those are things I can also try on Procreate. So I'm going to give that a try. And of course, I could keep going and just keep making slices and doing this alternating so that I've got a whole block that is just strips alternately flipped, which I think could be kind of cool too. I think I'm glad I'm putting these white strips in this case, because it will fit better with the rest of the quilt that I've been making. Suddenly the wind is very calm, which makes me very nervous. Lived in tornado country a long time. Okay, so that is, I think, all that I'm going to do today so that I can get this posted. I am thinking about, let me know what you think of this. I'm thinking that I might do just an hour or two at most sew and chat that I will post on Saturday. So for those who find the holidays difficult for whatever reason, or don't celebrate that particular holiday, or you just want to take a break and sit down and do some sewing, you'll have to listen to me chatter a lot of the time. But I thought that might be a way for us to kind of get together and share a little bit of a holiday and some sewing time with each other. So let me know what you think about that. I'll probably do it anyway, because I'll be sitting down and sewing. I just wouldn't ordinarily. Well, I talk to myself sometimes, but not constantly. So that's an option. It's something I'm thinking about doing. And then on Sunday, what are we doing on Sunday? Sunday is going to be, I will show a little bit, I think will be on Sunday. I will show a little bit of my process for doing the last design prompt. And then I'll also start talking about how I would approach constructing some of the designs that I did over the last 6 weeks. So, and then on Wednesday, I don't know, who knows what we'll do by then. So I am going to wrap this up and see if I can't get it posted. Sorry, it's short today and it's going to be late. Sorry about that. I will hopefully see you on maybe Saturday, Sunday, or Wednesday. In the meantime, be well, be happy, be quilting. Peace out.